Welcome to our deep dive into the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. This year's parade had some really unique elements, even with the rain. You want to understand what made it stand out. I think you'll be surprised by some of the details from the sources you gave us. So we're going to take a look at the parade's history and how the weather this year was a challenge, and then, of course, the lineup. There were some amazing performers this year, so let's get started.
Yeah, it really is amazing, how this parade, from such a humble start, way back in 1924, it's become such a massive spectacle. We've come such a long way from just simple fairy tale floats.
I know, it's such a contrast.
Right.
Starting with floats inspired by Mother Goose and Miss Muffet,
Mhm.
and now we have these giant character balloons and super elaborate themed floats.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even more surprising? Those early parades actually use real animals. Can you imagine that?
Wow, I can't even imagine the logistics of that.
Right. Thankfully, they switched to helium balloons in 1927. This year, we saw a mix of traditional elements like marching bands and clowns, but then also modern additions. Did you hear about the float with the knight and dragon made entirely of pasta?
Pasta dragons now, that is incredible. What a creative way to showcase Italian cuisine, right? It makes you wonder, like, how Rouse, the company behind the float, came up with that idea. Talk about memorable marketing.
Totally. It makes you think about how much brands leverage the parade's visibility to come up with these really creative campaigns. But even with all of this amazing spectacle, the parade has had its fair share of challenges over the years. This year, of course, it was the rain.
And you know it's only been canceled 3 times, and all 3 times were during World War II.
Wow.
So that speaks volumes about how committed they are to doing the parade no matter what.
It does, yeah. It's always been a symbol of resilience, especially in times of adversity. But this year, the organizers had a really unique set of challenges. Think about the rain and the wind. Can you imagine the pressure of ensuring those giant balloons can fly safely?
Absolutely, and I bet it was quite the sight to see all the spectators, everyone with their umbrellas and ponchos, braving the elements just to see the parade. It's like a testament to how much this event means to people. But speaking of the spectacle, we can't forget about this star-studded lineup this year.
Yeah, you're right. It was quite the mix of talent. Something to appeal to everyone. Even A-listers like Jessica Chastain, Sherry Shepherd, and Flavor Flav were spotted at a private reception.
Wow, that's an interesting group to picture together. You're right, it shows how broad the appeal of this event really is. But what about the actual performers in the parade? What stood out to you the most this year?
Well, first of all, there were some powerhouse singers this year. Jennifer Hudson, Idina Menzel, Kylie Minogue, and of course, no Macy's parade would be complete without the Rockettes.
Right, of course.
All those high kicks.
I know, it's just amazing, all that talent coming
Yeah.
together on one stage, or rather, one parade route. And you mentioned Broadway performances as well. Which shows were represented this year?
Well, there were casts from The Outsiders and Hell's Kitchen, bringing some Broadway magic to the streets of New York. And of course, we can't forget some of the newer faces as well.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned earlier reality TV star Ariana Madix and musicians T-Pain and Dan Pleshay. It really does feel like the parade is showcasing both established and up-and-coming talent. But amidst all this celebration, there was a moment that brought a different kind of attention to the parade this year.
Yeah, you're talking about the pro-Palestinian protest, the one that briefly interrupted the trade.
Yeah, exactly. What were your thoughts when you learned about the protest?
Well, it's a reminder that even in moments of widespread celebration, there are still important issues being raised and voices seeking to be heard.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it really shows just how much attention this event garners.
Right.
It's broadcast live on NBC and Peacock, with millions of viewers tuning in. So even a small disruption like that becomes big news.
It's true. The parade is such a significant cultural event. It inevitably becomes a platform for all kinds of expressions. I mean, whether it's the planned performances or, unexpected events like this protest, it really makes you think about all the different layers of meaning in something like this.
Yeah, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting, uncovering those layers and understanding the complexities of something as seemingly simple as a parade. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about the heart of the parade, those iconic giant balloons.
Ah, yes, the larger-than-life characters floating through Manhattan.
Yeah.
What a spectacle. Wednesday Addams, Spider-Man, Minnie Mouse. It really does capture the imagination.
It really does. There's something so captivating about seeing those massive figures towering over the city. It's almost surreal. But before we get too lost in all that spectacle, it's important to remember that this parade isn't just about flash and entertainment.
You're right. At its core, it's about tradition, togetherness, and marking the start of the holiday season. The Macy's Parade has become synonymous with Thanksgiving for so many.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a reminder of those simple times, gathering with your family and friends, sharing a meal, and just enjoying this iconic spectacle together. And those elements that have been there from the beginning, the marching bands, the clowns, they add a touch of nostalgia and whimsy.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the Macy's Parade so enduring. It manages to evolve and adapt with the times, but it still holds on to those core elements that make it so special.
I love that. It's this beautiful blend of tradition and innovation.
Yeah.
Oh, we've only just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to unpack. I'm already looking forward to diving deeper into the cultural impact and the lasting legacy of this iconic event. Let's continue our exploration in part 2.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Before we move on, I wanted to touch back on something you mentioned earlier about the blend of tradition and innovation in this year's parade. It's just fascinating to me how those giant balloons and floats, they kind of act like a snapshot of what's capturing our collective imagination at the time.
You're so right. And it's not just what's represented, but how it's represented that's really changed over the years. One thing that really stood out to me this year was how much focus there was on diversity and inclusivity.
That's a great point. The parade has definitely made a conscious effort to become more representative of America's diverse population. It's a pretty big shift from its early days.
For sure. And
Yeah.
I think we saw that reflected in the performer lineup this year, right? There were musicians from all different genres, and the Broadway performances showcased such a variety of stories. And even the celebrities attending this year reflected a broader spectrum of backgrounds and experiences.
Totally. Including artists like T-Pain, Damn, plus Shay, and Leah Salonga, really speaks volumes about how the parade is evolving to reflect a more multicultural America. And, this commitment to inclusivity, it's not just limited to the performers either.
That's true. Even the design of the floats and balloons seemed to embrace
Mm.
a wider range of representation this year. Like, take the Bronx Zoo's 125th anniversary float. It featured all these different animals from around the world.
Oh, yeah, that's a perfect example. And even the Wednesday Addams balloon, celebrating a character who's both iconic, but also a bit of an outsider, right? I think it sends a really
Yeah.
cool message about embracing individuality and challenging norms.
Absolutely. It's so important for young viewers, especially, to see that kind of representation, especially at such a prominent event. It shows them that it's okay to be different, to embrace what makes them unique. And honestly, I think that's something the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade does incredibly well, bringing together people from all walks of life, reminding us that we share more than what divides us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's a celebration of community and shared experiences. And the fact that it does all of this while also being this giant spectacle of entertainment and visual delight is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of spectacle, we haven't even talked about how technology has shaped the parade experience. It's not just a live event anymore. It's a multimedia extravaganza.
It really is.
Yeah.
With the live streaming on Peacock and the constant buzz on social media and all the behind-the-scenes content you can find online. The parade has become accessible to a global audience now.
That's so true. It's like having a front row seat
Right.
right from the comfort of your own home. It makes you wonder how the parade has managed to not just stay relevant, but actually grow its audience in a world with so many entertainment options.
Well, I think it comes back to that sense of tradition
Yeah.
and that shared experience we were talking about earlier. In a world that's becoming more fragmented and digital, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade offers this moment of collective joy, a chance to connect with something larger than ourselves. It's a reminder that some things are simply timeless.
And speaking of timeless, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on the future of the parade. How do you see it evolving in the years to come?
That is a great question. Given how much the parade has evolved already over the last century, it's exciting to think about what the next 100 years might hold. Do you think it'll keep adapting to the changing trends, new technologies, or will it stay true to its traditional roots?
That's tough. I think it needs to strike a balance between the two. We might see even more interactive elements, like virtual reality experiences, or even drone displays incorporated into the parade to keep up with all the technological advancements.
Oh, I could totally see that happening.
Eh.
The possibilities really are endless.
I know. But I do think the core elements of the parade, the giant balloons, the marching bands, that sense of wonder and spectacle, I think those will always resonate with people, no matter how much technology changes.
I agree. I think you're right. It's that unique mix of tradition and innovation. That's what makes the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade so special.
It really is. It's like a living, breathing testament to the power of human creativity and imagination. Okay, now, since we're talking about the future, let's have some fun with it. Let's try to imagine what the parade might look like in another 100 years.
Ooh, I love this.
Yeah.
What do you envision?
Okay, well, I am definitely picturing even more elaborate floats and balloons, maybe even some that are self-propelled, or ones that can interact with the audience in new ways.
Like balloons that can talk or sing,
Well,
or floats that can transform right in front of you. I love that.
exactly. And I think we'll definitely see even more diverse representation in the parade itself, reflecting the ever-evolving tapestry of American culture. You know, it's hard to imagine all the specifics, but I have no doubt the parade will find ways to amaze
That's a
us.
wonderful vision.
Wow.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe by then we'll even have parades on other planets.
You never know. The
Yeah.
sky's the limit, right?
Uh-huh, that's true. Speaking of limits, though, I think we might be approaching ours for this segment. We've covered so much ground today, from the history of the parade to its future possibilities, but we're not quite done yet. There's still more to discuss.
You're right, we've got to take a break. So let's take a moment to gather our thoughts, and then we'll come back for the final part of our deep dive into the 2024 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the 2024 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. We've covered so much already: the history, the spectacle, how it reflects broader cultural trends.
It really is incredible, how much this parade has evolved, while still staying true to those core values of tradition and community and spectacle.
Yeah. It really is amazing to think about how something as simple as a parade can hold so much meaning for so many people. But there's one aspect we haven't really discussed yet: the emotional impact.
You're right. It's not just about the spectacle itself, it's about the feelings it evokes. The nostalgia, the joy, that sense of wonder.
It's like that moment when families gather around the TV, bundled up in their pajamas, sipping hot cocoa, and sharing in that excitement of the parade. You mentioned earlier that you wanted to understand more about what makes this tradition so special. And I think this is a big part of it.
Oh, absolutely. For so many people. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade isn't just entertainment, it's a ritual. It's a tradition that marks the beginning of the holiday season and brings back all those cherished memories.
Exactly. It's a reminder of simpler times, childhood dreams, the magic of the holidays. And for those who brave the cold and the crowds to watch it in person, it's an experience that's both exhilarating and heartwarming.
Yeah, there's a real sense of community. You can feel it in the air.
I know, it's like the whole city of New York comes together to celebrate this one special day.
That's exactly it. And that's what makes the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade so powerful. It's not just about the balloons or the celebrities or even the performances. It's about the emotions, the memories it creates, the connections it fosters.
I love that. It's a reminder that some traditions are just timeless. They have this power to transcend generations, bringing us together in a way that few other things can.
Beautifully said. This parade really is a testament to that shared human experience.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you with one final thought. Considering this parade's incredible journey over the past century, what do you think the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade will look like in another 100 years?
That's a great question. Will it still have those giant balloons and marching bands? Will it embrace new technologies, new forms of entertainment? Will it continue to reflect the changing face of America? I guess only time will tell. But I, for one, am so excited to see what the future holds for this beloved tradition.
Me too. It's been an absolute pleasure exploring the history, the spectacle, the heart of this American icon.
It really has. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. We hope you enjoyed the journey.
And until next time, keep your eyes on the skies. And may your holidays be filled with joy, wonder, and maybe even a little bit of parade magic.